Chapter 19 of A Short Life of Abraham Lincoln. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Jude Cater. A Short Life of Abraham Lincoln by John G. Nicolay. Chapter 19. Lincoln directs cooperation. Halleck and Buell. Ulysses S. Grant. Grant's demonstration. Victory at Mill River. Fort Henry. Fort Donelson. Buell's tardiness. Halleck's activity. Victory of Pea Ridge. Halleck receives general command. Pittsburgh Landing. Island No. 10. Halleck's Corinth campaign. Halleck's mistakes. Toward the end of December 1861, the prospects of the administration became very gloomy. McClellan had indeed organized a formidable army at Washington, but it had done nothing to efface the memory of the Bull Run defeat. On the contrary, a practical blockade of the Potomac by rebel batteries on the Virginia shore, and another small but irritating defeat at Ball's Bluff greatly heightened public impatience. The necessary surrender of Mason and Slidell to England was exceedingly unpalatable. Government expenditures had risen to $2 million a day, and a financial crisis was imminent. Buell would not move into East Tennessee, and Halleck seemed powerless in Missouri. Added to this, McClellan's illness completed a stagnation of military affairs both east and west. Congress was clamoring for results, and its Joint Committee on the Conduct of the War was pushing a searching inquiry into the causes of previous defeats. To remove this inertia, President Lincoln directed specific questions to the Western commanders. "Are General Buell and yourself in concert?" he telegraphed Halleck on December 31. And next day he wrote, "I am very anxious that, in case of General Buell's moving toward Nashville, the enemy shall not be greatly reinforced, and I think there is a danger he will be from Columbus. It seems to me that a real or feigned attack on Columbus from upriver at the same time would either prevent this or compensate for it by throwing Columbus into our hands." Similar questions also went to Buell, and their replies showed that no concert, arrangement, or plans existed, and that Halleck was not ready to cooperate. The correspondence started by the President's inquiry for the first time clearly brought out an estimate of the Confederate strength opposed to a southward movement in the West. Since the Confederate invasion of Kentucky on September 4, the rebels had so strongly fortified Columbus on the Mississippi River that it came to be called the Gibraltar of the West, and now had a garrison of 20,000 to hold it, while General Buckner was supposed to have a force of 40,000 at Bowling Green on the railroad between Louisville and Nashville. For more than a month, Buell and Halleck had been aware that a joint river and land expedition southward up the Tennessee or the Cumberland River, which would outflank both positions and cause their evacuation, was practicable with but little opposition. Yet neither Buell nor Halleck had exchanged a word about it or made the slightest preparation to begin it, each being busy in his own field and with his own plans. Even now, when the President had started the subject, Halleck replied that it would be bad strategy for himself to move against Columbus, or Buell against Bowling Green, but he had nothing to say about a Tennessee River expedition or cooperation with Buell to effect it, except by indirectly complaining that to withdraw troops from Missouri would risk the loss of that state. The President, however, was no longer satisfied with indecision and excuses, and telegraphed to Buell on January 7, "Please name as early a day as you safely can on or before which you can be ready to move southward in concert with Major General Halleck. Delay is ruining us, and it is indispensable for me to have something definite. I send a like dispatch to Major General Halleck." To this Buell made no direct reply, while Halleck answered that he had asked Buell to designate a date for a demonstration, and explained 2 days later, "I can make, with the gunboats and available troops, a pretty formidable demonstration, but no real attack." In point of fact, Halleck had on the previous day, January 6, written to Brigadier General U.S. Grant, "I wish you to make a demonstration in force," and he added full details, to which Grant responded on January 8. "Your instructions of the 6th were received this morning, and immediate preparations made for carrying them out," also adding details on his part. Ulysses S. Grant was born on April 27, 1822, was graduated from West Point in 1843, and brevetted captain for gallant conduct in the Mexican War, but resigned from the army and was engaged with his father in a leather store at Galena, Illinois, when the Civil War broke out. Employed by the governor of Illinois a few weeks at Springfield to assist in organizing militia regiments under the President's first call, Grant wrote a letter to the War Department at Washington tendering his services and saying, "I feel myself competent to command a regiment, if the President in his judgment should see fit to entrust one to me." For some reason, never explained, this letter remained unanswered, though the department was then and afterward in constant need of educated and experienced officers. A few weeks later, however, Governor Yates commissioned him colonel of one of the Illinois 3-years regiments. From that time until the end of 1861, Grant, by constant and specially meritorious service, rose in rank to brigadier general and to the command of the important post of Cairo, Illinois, having meanwhile, on November 7th, won the Battle of Belmont on the Missouri shore opposite Columbus. The "demonstration" ordered by Halleck was probably intended only as a passing show of activity, but it was executed by Grant, though under strict orders to "avoid a battle," with a degree of promptness and earnestness that drew after it momentous consequences. He pushed a strong reconnaissance by 8,000 men within a mile or two of Columbus, and sent 3 gunboats up the Tennessee River, which drew the fire of Fort Henry. The results of the combined expedition convinced Grant that a real movement in that direction was practicable, and he hastened to St. Louis to lay his plan personally before Halleck. At first that general would scarcely listen to it, but returning to Cairo, Grant urged it again and again, and the rapidly changing military conditions soon caused Halleck to realize its importance. Within a few days, several items of interesting information reached Halleck. That General Thomas in eastern Kentucky had won a victory over the rebel General Zollicoffer, capturing his fortified camp on the Cumberland River, annihilating his army of over 10 regiments, and fully exposing Cumberland Gap. That the Confederates were about to throw strong reinforcements into Columbus. That 7 formidable Union ironclad river gunboats were ready for service, and that a rise of 14 feet had taken place in the Tennessee River, greatly weakening the rebel batteries on that stream and the Cumberland. The advantages on the one hand and the dangers on the other, which these reports indicated, moved Halleck to a sudden decision. When Grant, on January 28, telegraphed him, "With permission, I will take Fort Henry on the Tennessee and establish and hold a large camp there," Halleck responded on the 30th, "Make your preparations to take and hold Fort Henry." It would appear that Grant's preparations were already quite complete when he received written instructions by mail on February 1, for on the next day he started 15,000 men on transports, and on February 4 himself followed with 7 gunboats under command of Commodore Foote. 2 days later, Grant had the satisfaction of sending a double message in return. "Fort Henry is ours. I shall take and destroy Fort Donelson on the 8th." Fort Henry had been an easy victory. The rebel commander, convinced that he could not defend the place, had early that morning sent